to see you. So many awesome things are happening, and it's always fun to kind of chew on things with you.
We are helpful at calibrating.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk about cravings.
So we'll just stick something in really fast and then we'll hear you fully.
Yeah.
A craving is a strong calling. I've thought about it enough that I've got a lot of momentum going. And the momentum, whether it's wanted or unwanted, is calling me. So it's really helpful if you can ascertain early on in your awareness that you have this craving habit of feeling. How do you feel about it? Are you craving it from a not good feeling place? In other words, Esther craves this. She can't get here to where you are fast enough. She craves these moments in time. It's a very powerful calling for her. She couldn't give it up. If only one of you showed up, she'd be here and happily. But she also craves things that she's decided she's not going to participate in anymore. Is it an emotional craving? Always at the root of it. Has it turned into a even greater craving, like a strong momentum craving? Yeah, often. Even something that your cells are asking for. You can offer a habit of thought often enough. When you introduce something to your body, whether it's nicotine or a stronger drug or caffeine or even preservatives or anything that you've decided might not be the best thing for you, but still there's something about it. MSG tastes real good. In other words, no matter what it is, once you introduce it, your very compliant body, who is always finding the comfort knob, always finding balance, will acclimate to whatever it is you've ingested. And that acclimation feels to you like a craving. So it's helpful for you to sort out what this is about and why. Why do I crave this? So
that's exactly what I'm trying to figure out. Yeah. So
what
it's
is
sugar. Sugar is like, or sweets, or...
Well, you crave it. You crave it for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
Sugar has high-powered get up and go in it. There's a stimulation in it that your body responds to in a really positive way in degrees. It also is pleasurable. It also tastes good, and so it can be comforting.
Well, I can also feel relief when I take it.
But if you decide that it is inappropriate, we're surprised that any of you can find anything to eat. Because somebody has written 1,000 books on everything. And most of them are about why you should never participate with it again, which just makes you want it more. Have you ever seen little kids? Esther remembers being with a wonderful woman. Her name is Audrey. She was the reason that Jerry and Esther started coming right here to Connecticut and to Rye, New York. She invited them there and had several clients that she was a wonderful teacher in her own life experience. And one night, Jerry and Esther were having dinner at her home with her family. And her young grandson, Benjamin, had been completely uninterested in anything that was being discussed by these old fuddy-duddies. He was just there to eat and get out as soon until his aunt whispered something that she didn't want him to hear. And then he was all ears. There's something about something that calls you if you think there's something meaty in there. What we're saying about that is most people would rather feel negative emotion than no emotion at all. And so some cravings are a little bit like that. But you can balance, you can moderate. You're not addicted. Your cells don't have to demand. Alcoholics Anonymous would not want to hear this from us because they are certain that once you're an alcoholic, you're always an alcoholic, and that if you should be so foolish as to let any of that touch your tongue, that then off you go on another toot. And we're not saying that they're not right about that, because that is very often the case, and maybe that's a path of greater resistance than you want to take. But we also know that you are the master of your own cellular functioning, and that the cells of your body are taking their strongest cues. Really, friends, do you lay in bed and make sure that your heart pumps, or do you just trust it probably will? Do you say, oh, I got to metabolize this food, I got to metabolize this food, I got to metabolize this food? Or do you accept that your body knows what to do? And if you really trusted that not only do the cells of your body know what to do, but they have great communication with one another, and that your inner being has perfect communication with them, provided you're not in crises or angry or doubtful or hateful, afraid, or any of those emotions, which doesn't cut you off, but it certainly blocks the signal to some extent. Then your desires could all be, every single desire in combination with every other single desire could be met with ease if you would trust the process. People fear their bodies. Television does that to you. You can't watch anything. Esther can't get her finger on the mute button fast enough. You can't watch anything without their warnings to you. And every time you hear it, you have a reaction to it. And if your action is, ooh, that's worrisome, then they have stimulated in you something that they deliberately wanted to stimulate in you, distrust in yourself so that you'll need them.
Okay, the word that's really resonating with me is trust, because yeah, that feels at least around my body, kind of over there, somewhere else.
So you know better. We can feel that you know better. So you want to talk this through?
Yeah, I do know better, yeah.
So you want to talk this through? So what about what we just said? So we know you trust the law of attraction, and we know you trust your inner being, and we know you trust what we say.
Yeah.
And so you just don't trust yourself to do it, which means you don't trust yourself to care enough about your own comfort knob. You don't trust yourself to make an emotional improvement. In other words, you think, well, if I just did what I want and I always went for the comfort, then I just eat it. And we say, if you eat it, when you think it's bad, it will have a bad effect on you. So we're not saying find your comfort through what you do with action. We're saying find your comfort through what you think with your thoughts. And as you do that, then in time, as that becomes not just a belief, but an expectation, then what begins to happen is you just have ease and flow about this. You don't become a maniac who's deprived yourself of something for so long. Esther remembers hearing Oprah on television one day, who was always offering some new weight loss idea. And Esther heard a lot of them because Esther, like everybody else, was always looking for some way to do that. And she heard Oprah say to her television audience, I knew I was in trouble. I'd ridded my house of everything sweet. All the sugar was out of my house. I'd ridded my house of it. And one night I had such a craving that I found a frozen waffle in the back of the freezer. And I poured syrup on it and ate it. Frozen. And Esther thought, I can see that. I get that. But that's a craving not yet in control. That's a craving gone rampant and somebody trying to use their action to prevent. Well, there's not a strong enough action in the world because there's always a frozen waffle somewhere. There's always something. Esther sometimes will open her cupboards and she'll say, I know there's something in here that I've forgotten I have. Did I bring a snack from the plane and tuck it in a drawer somewhere? There's got to be a piece of chocolate in this house somewhere. There's got to be something somewhere in here.
Okay, I've gotten crazy about Tums even. There's like a Tums, and I'm like, oh my God, it's
Or
sweet.
vitamins. Sugary vitamins,
Right,
yeah.
right.
Chewables. Esther has these really good chewy things that her favorite quarterback, Buffalo Bills, says make you sleep. And Esther says, I don't care if they make me sleep, they sure taste good. So what are you going to do? You've got these cravings, and if you're relying on your action to avoid them, you're not going to. Because there's not enough avoidance patterns in the world to stop the law of attraction that you've practiced in the being. So you've got to find another way of approaching it.
Well, I'd love to share with you. I mean, I know that you're not a proponent of like diets and stuff like that, but I did
We are a proponent of any action that feels like ease and flow. We are not a proponent of deprivation because it never works. Deprivation just puts you in a place of stronger holding back the dam that you can't hold back.
Okay, so this is the interesting thing where I feel like it's a mixture of both, because I was inspired actually to try carnivore, which is basically eating only animal products. But
Esther has a really good friend who has done amazing on that.
And I loved it. And my cravings go away.
Esther shows up at a restaurant with her friends. One of them is a vegan. One of them always wants to order off the children's menu. One of them can eat everything and savors it all. And one of them is a carnivore. And so they're sitting at a table, and the waiter comes up, and her vegan son said, "I'm a vegan." And the waiter said, "Oh, that's so cute." And he was sarcastic as he could be. Oh, goody. Oh, goody. This will be a lot of fun, because he knew where that was leading. And Esther said, "We are freaks. We are 5 different people, and we are 5 different extremes of what we are wanting to avoid." And this is what we're talking about. In other words, you don't trust your bodies. You don't trust your bodies to receive what you've eaten and deal with it in a positive way. Your inner being does trust your body. And because your inner being does trust your body, then your body takes care of whatever it is. Now, don't eat ground glass. Don't take this to that kind of an extreme. But really, it's your feeling of guardedness about everything that is your biggest problem. That's why you don't trust, because you've been guarded. You haven't been in alignment. You've been guarded, and you've tried this, and it didn't work, and you've been guarded, and so that didn't work, and you've been guarded, and so that doesn't work. And so then you decide, well, none of those things work, and therefore all that I'm left with is just not eating anything.
That's exactly how I feel, actually. I'm like, can I just skip eating altogether? That's exactly how I feel.
And so Esther, she doesn't know how she got there, and we're not going to explain it to her, because all it'll do is keep the momentum going. But Esther discovered that she had a lot of heartburn, indigestion, and then it was suggested, and she heard maybe it was a gluten sensitivity. And so she Googled it. That's always really helpful at increasing your point of attraction on things. And then she thought about what she had been eating, and she thought, well, that could be. And gluten is really easy to avoid, because it's really easy. It's flour, it's bread, it's crackers, it's a lot of things that are really good to eat, but it's hard to hide it. And the first day, her heartburn went away. It went away. Problem solved, except that everything I like to eat, I can't eat. So is that really the problem solved? Well, the heartburn problem was solved, but was that really the problem solved? So she ate like that for quite a while. She was one of the 5 freaks at that table that day. Any sensitivities? Oh, we're so glad you asked. We've all got one, except the one that wants to eat off the child's menu. So after months of this, and no heartburn, and no fun eating either, Esther was driving past McDonald's, and she swears her car pulled into the drive-thru without her meaning it. She thinks Abraham drove her right in there. And then Abraham, this is Esther's story and she's sticking to it, ordered an ice cream cone. And then Esther ate it. All of it. Even the delicious cone. And then she stood by. No negative sign came. So the next day, she drove to the McDonald's. Ordered another ice cream cone. No problem. So the next day, she drove to McDonald's and ordered a fish fillet sandwich. Her favorite. Stood by. No heartburn. She thought, I'm cured. I'm cured. Now, explain that. Explain that in any logical way. Discontinuing it gave her what she wanted. Then picking back up, no repercussions. So what happened? What happened in the process? Did her body adjust? Or in the meantime, did she hear enough from us about the disadvantage of deprivation and the disadvantage of struggle and the advantages of the comfort knob? In other words, did Esther somehow find a little more trust in her body's ability to take care of things and her relationship with her inner being to take care of things? You're not ever going to sort out all of the reasons.